So, hey everybody, as usual, and welcome to a review that isn't, well, an overview, I guess, of a tank in Armoured Warfare that isn't a premium. It's always good, always new. This is the Leopard prototype, as it says on the tin. It is very much functions like a cross between a Leopard 2 and a Type 90. It has less armor and less mobility than the Type 90, but it's pretty much better than a Leopard 2. So Leopard 2 can do hold down better, and it's slightly a better sniper. So it's Tier 7 on the French line, and I imagine if you've been playing the C13 for a while, you should have enough XP to unlock your Leopard prototype. Does it function like the Leopards at Tier 9 and Tier 10? It doesn't. In fact, it's quite unique in how it plays. Can't really describe it, except for more of a hybrid between a Leopard 2 and a Type 90. So, first thing to do is modifications. Now, there are a couple of different modifications for this. To start off with, we'll look at the armor later, but Spore Liner, a hit point increase, an enhanced maintenance kit, or smoke grenades. Now, I'm going with the enhanced maintenance kit here simply because of the increase in protection of the armor overall, and the fact you also get better repair speed for your modules. This seems to be a relatively compact tank, so getting those modules repaired is probably one of the better things you want to do. Apart from that, you want to go from improved gunner sight or heat rounds. Now, the heat rounds, they have relatively bad pan, but better heat rounds are always good compared to the basic ones, which only have 550 pounds. Okay, so you only get these heat rounds on the tank, so obviously you're going to want to go for that. Bit of a brain fart by me, sorry. So, next is the choice between improved gunner sight, an improved stabilization, or an improved FCS. I've gone with the improved FCS here, as an aim time reduction is usually key. However, the overall accuracy while moving increased by 20% is always pretty decent as well. Apart from that, the next thing you want to go for is the 120mm rounds or the improved autoloader. Now, the improved autoloader will give you a base damage of 500, penetration of 670, and a reload time of 6.4 seconds. However, this is a big plus in favour of these AP rounds, which gives you an average damage of 550 and a pen of 700. The difference between having these AP rounds and the improved autoloader ones, which are the stock AP rounds, is going through Al Hussein's, going through Tier 1, going through Tier 7 challenges, and going through some Tier 9s as well. 700 pen for a Tier 7 is absolutely amazing. So in this case, it is better to sacrifice the DPM and better rate of fire for the ability to hurt people. Now lastly, you either get a magazine autoloader or improved target recognition. I will go for the magazine autoloader, as the ammo does indeed load instantly, and it will allow you to blap AFEs in PvE, PvP, global ops pretty well. And then lastly, we have a bunch of also options here. We have the improved tracks, drive sprockets, and improved torsion bars. I've gone for the improved tracks here. However, the improved drive sprockets for an increase in acceleration is pretty decent, but I do prefer the mobility on difficult surfaces. Next, we have a turret traverse or steering. I went for the turning speed here. And then lastly, you either want to go for the improved turbine or the customized transmission. The customized transmission raises your reverse speed to 38 km an hour, which will allow you to get the fuck out of those slopes really quickly. Now, lastly, this is a point of contention between the player base at the moment, and I want to be able to sort this out relatively quickly. So, against itself, turret cheeks wise, and this is a very big thing, with the steel armor screens you get 900 pen. Composite, okay, and at some point, this is the difference between getting penetrated by Tier 7s and Tier 8s and not getting penetrated by Tier 7s and Tier 8s in the turret cheeks, and those turret cheeks can be very flat on and easy to hit, so that is definitely a thing. But otherwise, most of the time, this is more of a PvP playstyle. So if you're going in PvE, for instance, and against Ingways with 850 pan, definitely a thing. But otherwise, composite armor screens will be able to allow you to shield yourself versus missile rounds. So PvP, PvE, pretty bog standard. So let's compare it to some other tanks that play in roughly the same way. They kind of function as midline tanks really, so the Abrams and the Mercs don't really fit in with this. So instead the tanks to compare it to is the Sabra, the M62000, the Leopard 2 of course, and the Type 90. Now, as you can see here, the Leopard Proto has a pretty decent punch. 540 pan, which is better than the Leopard 2 and the Type 90, but loses out to the 2000 and the Sabra. It has also pretty decent pen as well, on par with the Leopard, better than the Type 90, but worse than the Sabra or the M62000. However, it does have very good DPM, beating out the premium, beating out the regular Leopard 2 by quite a bit, beating out the Type 90, and coming relatively similar to the other two premiums. However, its hit points is absolutely shit, so don't count on yourself to take fire, and we'll have a look at the armor screen later for this. However, it is also very fast compared to the rest, having the highest top speed, very good 0 to 32. It's also relatively chunky as well, so you are able to ram things, and the hold traverse is also very good as well. Camouflage is pretty decent, with the view range on the move being 475 with my retrofits, which is also very decent. However, gun depression is lacking noticeably to the rest, with the -8 degrees of gun depression. NATO standard is usually around 10, and that will come into contention with everybody else when you're trying to do ridgeline sniping, as you will miss that -10 degrees of gun depression that the Leopard 2 will give you. However, minimum spread is pretty much on par with Leopard 2, the Sabra having the best, but the Sabra is with a more of an Erin retrofit really. Sorry, a Freya retrofit. And lastly, there's also commanders such as, what else that happened? Aim time is also the best out of these, 1.5, and the turret traverse is nothing to sneeze out at a very healthy 41 degrees per second. Armor scheme wise, let us compare this against I'm gonna say a M1, since the M1 has more of the baseline penetration for its tier. So as you can see here, against 650 pen, 500 middle, 300 lower plate. Not the greatest in the world. It's, however, actually very weak turret ring here. Can you pen it with heat rounds? You can indeed. So keep that in mind. The turret ring seems to be at least quite consistent with the way you can hit it. However, it is quite small. Reminds me of the Russian weak spots. Relatively weak, but very small to hit. Which means, but unfortunately, as you can see here, the difference between these two plates is that getting hold down in the Merc can actually be quite difficult, as you have quite a big lower plate. Now also the difference I wanted to note here between the steel and the composite is as shows. So it's from there, basically flat on. And the turret overall with steel armor screens is about 900, whereas with composite it falls to around 700. So lastly for that, as you have seen, the turret is also 400mm thick, which is pretty good, but the sides are also quite bad as well, and it does get the Ariete style ones, but unfortunately it doesn't really help out that much. This isn't a particularly good size scraping vehicle, unfortunately. As you can see here, the steel plates don't really add too much, unlike what the ones on the Ariete does, so bit of a bad point there. So commanders wise, I've chosen Cortez here for the increase in DPM. Obviously Cortez is a premium commander, not everybody has Cortez. I wouldn't recommend going for Erin, as the hit point increase is going to be very minor. So instead, if you want to help out with the aim time and get your tank down to around more of a Leopard 2 playstyle, there is a choice between using Freya with the maximum accuracy boost. If you want a pretty fun overall stat to your vehicle, there is also a choice between Fedor Sokolov or Maximilian Koenig, who will help you out with your repair speed and everything, and also better turret traverse as well. The fact that this man, and I guess other MBT commanders you could use as well, would also be stuff like Philip, pretty much a crew stat boost as well, help you out with your modulability as well as the repair speed. And then lastly, there's also commanders such as Victor, who will give you the healthy punch you need to track people all day, every day. And as well also give you the ability to do a very nice amount of crew damage. And lastly, if you're playing this thing as a brawler playstyle, which I do not recommend, there is also the choice of using Rachel. As you can see here, lots of reload speed increases, but if you do have the French commander, things can be a little bit weird, as he gives you reload speed increase when you repel damage. It actually goes up to around 9% with the counterattack. Sorry, it goes up to 8.1% with counterattack and everything, as well as a HP buff. So that's all of the commanders really. So let's have a look at the gameplay. I'm going to choose both of these games will be with the top penning rounds, as I wasn't really able to have that much of a good game with the bottom ones, as while it was useful against low tiers, against challengers and Al Husseins and the like, it really does struggle. So let's have a look at a couple of games then. So as per standard on Waterway, the usual thing to do in MBTs is to go towards the city. Now going hold down may be an option, but this was the first game I ever had in this, or was it the second? I can't remember. And I wanted to see what this tank would do versus other MBTs of the same tier. Now, as you can see here, I am indeed using the top AP rounds. 7.11 second reload time is very healthy. In fact, it's better than the Leopard 2 and the Abrams. So, at the very least, this is far more powerful than either of them. Unfortunately, this Abrams over here is a bit of a dick. Thank you for that, dude. And everyone seems to be going this way. I am using the Greek camouflage, which I actually found to be very, very nice to look at. And lastly, we do also have the French flag here as well. So there's a couple of Al Husseins on the other team, a bunch of Leopard Protos as well, which means we're very likely to run into those Protos and then the Al Husseins. But apart from that, I'm not really that bothered. And also another benefit of this thing's 700 penetration is that you will also have a very equal fight with K1A1s and Type 90s, who currently reign as the best MBTs in Tier 7, along with the Challenger and the T80U. So against the Chalet and those other two mentioned, the 700 pen gives you a very good fighting chance against them, while the 670 will not. So, seeing the Leopard Proto up there has smoked up, I'm going to sit here for a couple of minutes to see where the enemy is. I'm quite nervous about if they're going to approach from the right, so instead I'm going to move up at some point. Now, as you can see here, that Leclarc over there is stock, and 594 pen with Cortez. 594 is pretty much the highest damage you'll achieve. Very nice hit on that Leclarc's ammo rack. The ammo rack is also in the lower part of the tank, so it can be punched through. So keeping that lower plate is actually, well, keeping the lower plate hidden is very much a good idea for you. However, it's not always happened, and with the top AP rounds you are able to quite handily punch through another Leclarc, as you can see here, with relative ease and no real difficulty. So, no Al Husseins yet. Another hit on that guy. As you can see here, it's a relatively tall tank, so go and hold down means exposing, I'm going to say, up to the tracks are for a safe bet. And as you can see, that is actually that can actually be quite difficult when it comes to hiding everything. So hit on that guy here, and I want you to have a look at where I'm aiming at him. Pretty much yellow all around. If I was using the bottom AP rounds, that might be red, or an even worse chance to penetrate. So thank fuck for using the top AP rounds. Over at this point, a pretty decent amount of damage has been done. It's always quite nice. And now we've got to move on to the rest. Put prototype over there, misses. Okay, whatever. Mobility wise, for a French tank, it doesn't seem to be that fast, but I can't complain. It seems to be roughly the same as the Leopard in terms of mobility for me, as you saw in the stats. So I can't really give I don't have any real complaints about this tank. It doesn't really seem to have any real weaknesses. All it has is strengths. So this is this seems to be shaping up to be probably one of the best regular tanks of Tier 7, far outshining the Leopard and the Abrams. So Type 90 over there, if I was facing him frontally, I could actually penetrate him, but all we're doing now is just waiting for this M1A1 Storm to actually go up against him. I believe I bounce, I do indeed. So the fact this M1A1 Storm is taking so long to get there can be a bit of annoying. And as you can see there, he's a base stock Abrams, so the base stock Abrams has around roughly 650 more hit points than this does. And while you might be able to achieve roughly the same amount of HP with Alicia, you lose out on quite a bit. So I wouldn't recommend using Alicia for the fact that not many hit points to begin with. What's the point? So at this point we've done 5.7k damage. The gun and shell has performed very well at this point, and I can't really fault it. This has been a relatively easy game thus far, so that the Leclarc over there is using the stock AP rounds, as you can see there, it is able to go for itself relatively easily. I managed to do a bounce, and now he's dead. Anyway, this is when we'll see the mobility of it getting into action. Unlike the Tier 9, this doesn't have the choice for a bunch of abilities, so nice damage on the move there as well. And I feel like engine boost would probably be better for it than the whatever that alert thing is supposed to be. Makes zero sense. And then lastly, Terminator over there. As you see there, I immediately switched to heat rounds, which is a very good benefit of this. Unfortunately, only doing 29 damage in the process. So let's have a look at another game. So this is going to be another game on Waterway. Waterway seems to be relatively popular for MBT rushes, and this will be vastly different than the last one. It's not going to be a runaway game, I will promise you that. At the very least, it will show off some more of the Leclarc capabilities. So this is unlike some YouTubers where I will rattle on and prat about the tank for 10 minutes while going to the field, except I've actually literally covered most of it while in the last game, so let's just skip ahead. For now you can just watch the mobility of the tank go. And here it is. So a lot more vehicles than last time. I do screw up here very much momentarily, and now I'm using that 6.4 second reload time, so I'm using the other shells this time. So imagine every single bounce here would have been a penetration with those top AP shells, and this is what I very much want to get into people's heads. Do not use the stock shells if you have the top ammo upgraded. Hit on that guy there. I'm also doing 49 less damage. Sorry, 44 less damage. Terminator over there. Penetration as well. Okay, it's going so far so well. One hit to that guy. Unfortunately, there's still a bunch of enemy tanks left, so I lost quite a bit of damage. This Terminator, don't know what he's doing. So for now, usually this is how this map goes most of the time. Very much in NASCAR, Rush B from MechWarrior Online. One team goes one way, one goes the other. The slow ones get picked off while the rest die. And it all comes to some giant confrontation in the middle of the map. Never really been a fan of it, but oh well. So this time, going to be more frontally facing onto the enemy. So let's see how this one goes. Bunch of enemies over there. Now this thing is, fortunately, its mobility is fast enough to make it shift, which is good trait. Good trait. Unfortunately, as you can see here, there is a bunch of sniper Renos on the other team. So if I want to do damage, I've got to do it fast. Got another Leclarc prototype over here as well. This guy seems to be relatively suicidal in how he prays. There's a Sprott over there, don't get a shot in on him. And now the enemy team knows we're here. So, Al Hussein over there. Penetration, pen is good. See that little yellow bit over there? That probably would have been green with the top AP shells. He's only got a bit left. And now he's dead. Merc over there. Would have been a bounce with the green shells. Leclarc over there as well. He's going to be a pain in the ass. So, smoke up. And at this point, I could have done an extra 500 to that Merc. Might have been able to save that Leclarc, but unfortunately that's how it goes. Leclarc over there. Another good pen. He'd be on 440 at this point. If I'd have penned that shell, he would be a one-shot. Fortunately, another hit taken from that Leclarc Proto over here, so things aren't going as well as I wanted them to. So remember, we do have a 6.4 second reload, which does up the DPM by around 500, even more with Cortez, but if I had those top AP shells, that Merc right now would be dead. And unfortunately, this is how the game's gonna go, I'm afraid. I'm pretty sure we all know how this one's gonna end. Ooh, another pen, and killed by the Stingray. So again, if I was using those top AP shells, I might have been able to kill that Merkava, 49 more damage. Could have happened. So please, you know, use those top AP shells. So, first game went relatively well, 208,000, 7,000 damage done. Lovely jubbly. Highest damage, well, second highest damage in the team, that Challenger 1 Falcon did really well. However, for a tier 7, beating out quite a few of these guys is pretty decent, I guess. Stats wise, 2 misses, 16 shots fired, 7,000 damage done. Total damage would have been 7.6. So, all in all, very decent haul. 512 damage mitigated. Not a bad game, I'll say so. The other game, however, not so well. Only 3,800 damage done, which is usually the standard you want to get in an MBT. Potential damage done would have been 5,501, so those bounces, definitely a slap in the face, and that may have caused me to live the game. So, overall speaking, out of the short amount of time I've had this tank, I have absolutely loved it with the top AP shells. And lastly, with retrofits, I do think about having a gun breech, Pioneer toolkit, and optics. Standard stuff. So, obviously you'll get this if you want to get the Leclercs. So, I can't really say, hey, do you want to buy this tank, because it's there. It's a solid vehicle, it's definitely one of the better regular tanks of its tier, and overall it's been a blast to play. Hope you've enjoyed this overview, and I guess I'll see you all next time. And of course, this is also the last of the French tanks overview, so that's it. See you all next time, and take care out there.